Hi, my name is Clint Taylor from Texas Kayak Fisher, and today I'm going to take you through a quick walkthrough of my Pau Hana Big Easy Angler. So to start off with, I mainly fish Texas rivers almost exclusively, and these rivers are what I consider pool and rapid, meaning that there's short sections of rapids that connect long, slow-moving pools. And so I've set this board up kind of to fish for almost exclusively bass as well. And so this will give you a good idea if you are in Texas of how to set up your SUP for Texas river bass fishing, but really a lot of this setup can be applied to any style of SUP fishing. So let's go ahead and start off with, this is the Pau Hana Big Easy Angler. Super stable, it's one of the wider boards you'll find on the market. It has ricochet technology, and so it's super durable against rocks, which I find a lot of on Texas rivers. And it's held up really great. I've had this board for about a year now, and it can take pretty much anything I throw at it. So how do I propel myself through the water? Well, I actually use two different paddles, a standard kayak paddle and a traditional SUP paddle. This paddle right here is the Bending Branches Amp, and this is what I use for my traditional SUP paddle when I'm standing up navigating through water, if I'm standing and fishing. This is the paddle that I'll use 90% of the time, and it works really good. It has a large surface area so I can really propel myself through the water, and it just works really good. It's powerful, and it can take how much power you want in a stroke or as little. It's a very good paddle. But I also have a traditional kayak paddle, which you can see here is the Bending Branches Angler Pro Carbon. And so you may be asking, why do I have a SUP paddle and a double-bladed kayak paddle? Well, the reason why is because a lot of the rivers I fish, it can get pretty windy at times, and so standing up you create a lot of wind drag, and I'm 6'4", so that's a lot of area for wind to catch on. It can be difficult to paddle efficiently head-on into a strong wind on a SUP with a single paddle. And so what I like to do is either sit on my cooler or kneel down onto the paddle board and use this double-bladed paddle by Bending Branches, the Angler Pro Carbon, and it just gives me a lot more power and efficiency. But if I'm standing, this is not the paddle to use. As good as it is, you really want to have a traditional SUP paddle. And so if you're only going to pick one, definitely go with the SUP paddle, because whenever I'm standing and fishing and casting a few times, then repositioning, it's much more easy to use the SUP paddle if you're standing a whole lot, which if you're buying a stand-up paddle board, and if you're not standing, then you probably should be looking at a kayak. And so those are the two paddles I use. And as you can see, I have them secured to the board pretty securely, for lack of better words. I use these grips from Yak Attack, I believe is the company, and they work really great. As you can see, you just pull them in and out, and due to their kind of V design, they just pop right in. They're super easy to secure, they're out of the way, and that's what's really great about this Pau Hana board and a lot of the other boards such as the Endurance that I also use. Is there's several different inserts that you can mount all sorts of accessories such as GoPros, cup holders, your phone, obviously paddles, or fishing rod holder. And so since we're on the subject of a fishing rod holder, let's go ahead and discuss how I mount my fishing poles and where I store them. And so one of the things I focus on with SUP fishing is I want to take minimal gear out with me. There's a lot of kayak anglers and SUP anglers that like to bring multiple rods with them, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not against that or anything of that nature, but I really like a more simplistic approach, and I can get away with two different fishing poles. And so I have a medium light spinning rod setup and then a medium heavy bait casting setup, and I found that these two rods alone really help me cover a wide variety of lures, tactics, and having the spinning setup and the bait casting setup just give me a whole lot of versatility. And only having these two rods eliminates having all sorts of poles getting in the way and whatnot. And so I really like just the two rods, and I really would highly suggest, if you can get away with it, try giving just two rods a shot. It's very nice, simple, easy to transport, and we're out in the water, it's just not as much to get in the way if you had multiple rods. But anyways, this is the Engel 19 quart dry cooler, and As it sounds, it is a cooler. Now this is not like an Orca or a Yeti. It won't hold ice for 7 days, but what you do get with this cooler, and the reason I like it so much, is one, it weighs a whole lot less than a Yeti or an Orca or other coolers. And then two, the price tag is about a fifth. I think you can get this for around 60, 70 bucks at Academy or other local retailers online and such. And it will hold ice plenty well for your day trips. And that's mainly what I use with the paddleboard, is get out on the water early morning and then you'll get off around sunset at the latest. And this will hold plenty of ice, keep it cool. And I use this thing in the Texas summers where we have multiple days over 100 straight. In fact, this year we were up above 110 multiple days, and I use this out in the water very successfully. And so I'll store some drinks and water. You know, every once in a while I do like a soft drink, so I'll put a Dr. Pepper in there. My food, lunch, snacks, they all go in here. And so it's the cooler, but then what this 19-quart dry cooler, as they call it, from or dry box from Engel does well is I can sit on it. And so it's nice to have an area to stand on the paddleboard, but you know, standing all day long can get a little tiring. So it's nice to sit down every once in a while. And if I do need to use the double-bladed kayak paddle, that's kind of where that comes in handy. But what's really cool about this cooler is they've designed it for fishing, and they did a really good job. As you can see, there's these rod holders here. You can actually mount a total of 4. I have 2 mounted in the back, but you can mount, there's another spot here, and there's a spot over here, and they give you all these accessories. So you get the cooler and 4 rod holders. Now I only need the 2, like I said, and I also like them in the back because that way I have this area forward clear. And that's another reason why I only have the 2 rods, because while I do have multiple poles and sometimes I do bring them, when I have 4 rods, I found that this one sometimes gets in the way of paddling, and so I really like to have them pushed towards the back. But this cooler is a great investment if you're going on day trips. It's small, it's lightweight, and the fact that it has the integrated rod holders is really cool. So I highly suggest this cooler. Moving on back here, I have this crate, and I'm going to bring it up front just so we can look at it a little bit better. One thing I want to mention about this crate is there's several companies, and they're great companies, don't get me wrong, that make designated crates for kayaks and SUPs. And a lot of them will have kind of mounting rails, or they'll have integrated rod holders like this. But to be, you know, brutally honest, I think they're way overpriced. This crate is like $10 from Home Depot or Lowe's, or most local hardware stores cover them. And you know, it holds a ton of gear, it's super cheap, and it just works really well for me. I would not suggest spending the amount of money that you can on some of these designated fishing crates, although they will work great for you. So if you're looking to save some money, don't get the Yeti or Orca, just buy this Engel dry quart cooler with the integrated rod holders. It works great. And then, you know, don't purchase one of those $70 to $100 kayak SUP fishing crates. Just get this standard crate from Home Depot, Lowe's, or your local hardware store. It'll work plenty good. And so we'll talk about the life jacket in a second, but what gear do I keep in here? And so first off, you know, I like to be prepared for anything. This is my first aid kit. It is from a company called Surviveware, but what I've done is I've kind of taken out things that I think I really don't need and put in some other things. And so it's kind of a Surviveware base kit, but I've added a lot to it on my own. But the point here is just, it's really good to have a first aid kit, not only for yourself, but there's a very good chance that you may stumble across somebody that needs help. And having a good first aid kit is pretty important. I'll leave a link in the description of this video to an article I did covering this first aid kit. I highly suggest reading it and maybe taking some tips from it so you can make your own or purchase one such as this. So I keep a first aid kit in there. This is just a little dry box that I got from Academy. I put my keys and my phone and wallet in here just to keep them dry. So that's all that is. This is my water bottle out for on the water. It's a Clean Canteen insulated water bottle. Once again, this is something I would recommend spending the money on. It is around $30 or $40, I think. I haven't checked the price recently, which I do realize is expensive for a water bottle. But I've had this one for probably 4 or 5 years now, and it's taken some falls down rapids and rocks and dings. I use it every day at work. But this thing can hold ice like unbelievably well. And so when you're out in the Texas heat, you put some ice cubes in here and water or lemonade or orange juice are some of my favorite drinks. This just really is going to hold it at temperature well. Very convenient, durable, and having an ice cold beverage out on the Texas heat waters, it's just very nice to have. And so I would recommend spend some money on these clean canteens. And the other thing is, yeah, you could put some plastic water bottles in here, and while I'm not what I'd consider environmentalist, I do like to take care of the environment. And so this is something you can reuse over and over, to where the plastic, you have to be throwing it away, and it's harder to recycle. And so this is the best route to go, in my opinion. I do recommend spending a little bit of money on that. And so what I also do is, this is a clean canteen growler, and I believe this one is 64 ounces, and this is also insulated. So what I'll often do is, I'll have water, lemonade in here. I'll start off with water or lemonade or whatever, and then in here I'll carry some water, lemonade, or sometimes Powerade or Gatorade, stuff like that. Every once in a while some orange juice. But once again, this just holds 64 ounces of water, so I have 20 ounces here, and then this will fill up this water bottle alone 3 times. While I could use this to drink out of directly, it is kind of big and bulky, so I prefer this one. But you definitely could just get this and drink out of directly. The opening that you drink out of is pretty much the same size as this, but I like having the kind of 2 different water bottles, and I always suggest bring a little more to drink than you think you need. Next are my tackle boxes. This is where I keep all my fishing lures and gear. I like to use these Plano 3600 series tackle boxes. They're super easy to open, store crankbaits, topwater, all sorts of stuff like that. And then for my soft plastic, I believe it's still the Plano 3600 series tackle boxes, but they just have this O-ring around here and these tight-fitting latches, so that it'll stay relatively airtight and waterproof and keep your soft plastics in good condition. And I typically bring about 4 of those with me. And so I'll just show you real quick. Just store that gear in here is real easy. Throw the first aid kit down in there, and it does fit tight, but you don't want it rattling around. And so that's what I keep in my crate. The next thing I want to talk about, that's similar to your first aid kit, but it's also a law, is your life jacket, or personal flotation device, PFD for short. There's acronyms for everything these days. But anyway, so your PFD, it is important to have. I know some people think, well, you're out on a stand-up paddleboard, you don't wear a PFD when you're swimming, and so on and so forth, but you do need to wear one, just because if you do fall, it is possible to hit your head on the board or on the cooler, or sometimes when I'm going down flowing water, I can fall off, and maybe, as bad as it sounds, I could hit my head on a rock or something. And having a PFD can really save your life. This one from MTI is called the Helios 2.0, and what I really like about it is, as you can see, it's super low profile. I don't even realize I'm wearing it. It's lightweight. It's really breathable, which is nice in the heat. But it's just really good to have and important, and in Texas you need to have one for law. And so if you don't want to get a ticket, wear your PFD, or at least have it on you in the crate or something. But this one's worked really well for me. It doesn't get in the way of casting or paddling or anything like that. And then the last thing that I want to cover equipment wise is my camera. So I'm actually using my camera right now to film this, a Canon 90D, if you're interested. But I'll bring it out on the water with me. Of course, this is not a waterproof camera. They do make some, but they're not as high quality as, such as this 90D, and so you got to protect them. This is a Pelican 1300 series case. It's worked great for me, super durable. This case is a little pricey. You can find some cheaper ones out there that I think would do, a pretty good job as well. I didn't want to risk any damage to my camera, because how I do my articles and videos like this. And so I spent a little money and invested in a super high quality case like this Pelican 1300. And I like a lot of cases, it has the eggshell on top, and then I've custom made it to fit my camera and a charger, SD cards, battery, and whatnot. This will float. You can throw it in the water. I've had it in rain and so on and so forth. I've had it submerged when it fell in one time, or more so I jumped in the water with it, but it works really good, and I think it's something worth investing in. But like I said, if you want to go a little bit cheaper, you can definitely get one online from different companies. I don't know all their names, but there are some cheaper alternatives. And as you can see, that's pretty much all I keep on my paddleboard. Two things I do want to note is something I will be investing in soon is a stakeout pole. I don't want to have a power pole on the back, or I don't want a chain that I throw in the water, but I do think having a stakeout pole would be valuable, especially when I'm fishing soft plastics and jigs. And thankfully this paddleboard from Pau Hana actually has, I don't know if you can see right here, but a hole that goes through the board that's designed to put your stakeout pole in, and it'll work really good. And there's also one right here, and I believe there's one on this side too for you to put your stakeout pole in, anchor out, help you maintain your position, which can be really nice if it's windy outside. One other thing is a lot of people like to film while they're out in the water, and so these inserts, they're called C-mounts from Pau Hana is what they put in there. They work really great for a variety of accessories. Like I said, I'm using them for paddle holders, but if you want to mount a GoPro so you can film, there's tons of locations and they're all throughout the board. Low profile, which I really, props to Pau Hana for doing that. I hate whenever some boards or kayaks have all these ridges and stuff to where your line gets tangled and whatnot. This board is nice and flush, super easy to work with. So you can put GoPros or rod holders or things like that. And then one more thing is you can see I don't have this secured to my board. While that probably would be the best route to go, you don't technically have to secure this, especially if you're a little more experienced paddler and you know where you're going. I feel confident that I'm not going to fall in. I usually know the rivers I'm going and navigating, and so I just keep these on here. I don't secure them. It's just a little less time, easier for me to get to. And sometimes if I get on shore or a little island, I like to take the crate or take this cooler with me, and not having to unstrap and everything is nice. But you definitely can do that, and I do recommend doing it, especially if you're not as experienced of a paddler or going to new waters and so on and so forth. But that's my setup. That's essentially it. It's worked really well for me. It's not a whole lot of gear, but I do feel like it covers everything I need. This board is a fishing machine. I mean, I fish kayaks and canoes a ton, but this is a stand-up paddle board, and it's called that for good reason. This is a standing platform, and it is so stable. I mean, I feel confident that people that haven't ever, done a SUP before, I'll let them try this out, and they're able to stand up, within 5 minutes. It's more, they could probably stand up right from the get-go. I think it's just more of a mental block. This paddleboard is super, super stable. If you're fly fishing, regular fishing, or any type of fishing, this would be a great board. And I do want to mention that I also have a Pau Hana Endurance, which is quite a bit narrower and has a pointier nose. And it's a displacement paddleboard, so it cuts through the water, where this is a planing. It goes on top of the water. That may not make a whole lot of sense, but just a little bit different design in the way the board cuts through the water. But this one's a lot more stable, and I would say maneuverable, to where the Endurance, as it sounds, is better for longer distance. And it's a little bit more of a touring paddleboard, to where this is a designated fishing. But man, this board is just unbelievable. I highly recommend checking it out. I have a review on texaskayakfisher.com. I'll put the link in the description. But I hope this helps you out. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or contact me on my website, texaskayakfisher.com. I'd be open to any suggestions, gear you use, or questions, whatever it may be. I really just want this to help you out, get on the water, have fun, and catch some fish, be safe, and be successful. So thanks for watching, and feel free to comment or ask any questions. Thanks.